Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. In today's video, I'm going to discuss Gala Luca, the latest version update and the new revive mechanic, and the new mana spirals for the shadow element that were revealed just today. There's a lot going on in Dragalia Lost, and even more is on the horizon with Monster Hunter just a week away at this point. There's been lots of cool previews over on Twitter. We've seen some screenshots of character dialogue from the event, gameplay footage of Rathalos, and even our character portrait for our new Rathalos Armor Berserker alt, who is going to be on that Monster Hunter banner. So hopefully you're excited about that. If you haven't checked out any of that over on the official Twitter, I'm going to post a link in the description below so you can take a look. But that is still a ways away. While I have you here today, I wanted to talk specifically about the things I mentioned, Gala happening, some new mana spirals, and the new version update, just to sneak it in before we get ready for Monster Hunter properly next week. Now I have Mitsuhide here. I had her walking through the snow because I feel very much like Mitsuhide recently. I feel very sleepy. It's this wintry mix outside. It's super cold weather. Just feel like hibernating, and what better way to cozy up than settle in with some Dragalia Lost, have a nice conversation about it today. It's really been a while since I checked in with the game. I've been playing a lot of Switch, just kind of casually going through Flames of Reflection, doing my weeklies, that type of thing. I did end up summoning a little bit on Windswept Harbingers, just enough to pick up Joachim, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that a little bit better than last time. I tried to incorporate and mix together your feedback in the comments on how best to say his name, but I ended up picking him up in around 30 summons, as well as getting a Garland to break my pity rate. So that's all the summoning I wanted to do on that, because I'm trying to save everything, or as much as I can, for Monster Hunter and even potentially for Gala Dragalia. So our big topics today are Gala Dragalia, Mana Spiral. Not going to talk too much about the chapter interlude, because that'll probably be out around the time that you're watching this video. And then finally, the version update. So I'm going to start off with Gala Luca, as I think Gala Luca is pretty hype for a lot of players, and the summoning might even be available when you're watching this. It's only around for 5 days, just like with always. Gala is a limited time event, higher chance of getting 5-star characters, but not necessarily easier, and in fact harder actually to snipe these Gala heroes who are on focus or featured at a rate up on the banner. So Gala Luca is not going to be easy to get by any means if past Galas are anything to go by, but if you are lucky you may be able to pick him up. Perhaps there'll be some surprise free summoning that comes into play as well that could help you get him. But if you're a newer player, Gala tends to be a good time to summon just for value, to get a lot of 5 stars, hard to target something specific. You're not necessarily going to get the latest and greatest from the most recent banners, but if you just want to build your 5-star collection or get Eldwater, it is a good time to summon. Now that being said, we're pretty much sure that a Monster Hunter banner is happening right after this, so it's a harder bargain than usual. I will probably do a minimal amount of summoning, hope that I can get Luca, but really I want to try sweep that entire Monster Hunter banner, so I will probably be saving here. As for Gala Luca though, himself, I think they did an excellent job with his appearance. I know there are a lot of Luca fans out there, and I feel like there's a lot of overlap between Luca fans and Moscula fans, so hopefully you like that they've given him Moscula's blade here, and apparently, this wasn't obvious to me, but reading the adventure details, apparently Luca is clad here with the symbols of lots of different races in the world of Dragalia Lost. So pretty cool to see Luca decked out in that way. A far cry from some other gachas I've played, like there is a character in Fire Emblem Heroes, known affectionately, I suppose, as Racist Roy, because he favors certain races in that game, and it's actually kind of absurd. Gala Luca, total opposite, loves everybody, wants to create a world with peace where everyone can enjoy everything together. Super awesome. I'm glad Luca finally gets the Gala glow up that many have wanted for him. And this alt, make no mistake, looks very powerful at a surface level. Of course, with any banner preview, there's things missing here. You're not seeing the SP or charge costs on these skills. You're also not seeing the amount of damage, the damage modifiers on the skills like Shining Slash. But to read through the skills, Shining Slash is a damage dealing move, deals damage in a line, and this skill's critical rate is increased by 10% for each buff with a different icon applied to the user. These are really Gala Luca's two major themes: critical rate and damage, and then different types of buff icons. That seems to be his gimmick as a Gala character. His second skill actually gives him one of those buff icons and applies toward his other gimmick of critical rate and critical damage, since it just gives him a buff to critical damage of 80% for 10 seconds. Hopefully this is a relatively fast to charge skill, because there are characters like Reina, for instance, who have a second skill that not only gives them a sizable critical damage buff, but also readies up their first skill for immediate use. So I would imagine you really want to use this brilliant booster right before you unleash Shining Slash, or at least make sure that you get off Shining Slash within that 10-second window, so that the heightened critical rate on Shining Slash can take advantage of that extra critical damage. As far as co-abilities, Gala Luca has the usual strength co-ability for blades. They haven't really dabbled too much in unique co-abilities since experimenting on Gala Yuden, Halloween Mim, and then Mega Man. Since then, we haven't had a unique co-ability, but strength is probably the best basic co-ability in the game. Blades are much sought after, very coveted, and I would imagine, looking at Luca as a whole, he's going to be very easy to slot into the hard shadow content right now, like High Zodiac Trial on Expert and Master. He could very easily replace, say, a Yachio, a Hanabusa, Chitose, whoever you kind of have in that flex damage dealing role. Luca seems primed for that. His abilities are where his kit kind of comes into its own to a certain extent. So the first ability is Connecting Call 2, and this is where they play up the theme of the different races in Dragalia Lost. So this is a little bit complicated. I'll try to read through this slowly. Increases Luca's critical rate by 4% for every buff with a different icon applied to him, up to 28%. So at most, you can get 28% buff. You can get 28% extra critical rate. That is a passive invisible buff. This part of the ability is not applying icons to him. It's based on the icons that you already have. So if you have 7 different icons, you can get up to 28% critical rate, just flat passive on Luca. Pretty good. And characters other than Axes start off with 2% critical rate, so that puts them pretty much at 30% if you can maintain 7 different buff icons. Part of the way that you maintain those icons is the rest of this text. So in addition, applies one of the following buffs to Luca every time one of his attacks is a critical hit. So now these have icons: Sylvan Secret Arts, Human Wisdom, and Roken Experience. A lot of different races of Dragalia Lost represented there. The Roken, of course, are Lazri as an example, Forge Masters, powerful blacksmith characters. That's all we really know about them from what I can tell so far. But perhaps Gala Luca and his story will have some type of interaction with Roken, which would be pretty cool. But each of these buffs increase Luca's critical rate by 3% for 20 seconds. So those all do the same thing, but they have different icons, so they count separately toward this first effect and toward the effect on Shining Slash. Pretty cool. Only one instance of each buff can be active at the same time, and after activating, this ability will not activate again for 3 seconds. So I'm guessing it applies one of the following, but wouldn't double up. Obviously it says that you can't stack it, so hopefully, it triggers a different one to apply that isn't already applied. And it would be even better if you reapply it and increase the duration of it so that you can maintain them permanently. I think that Gala Ellie's effect, her Divine Revelation effect, is kind of like that. Like, you can continuously reapply it by using Force Strikes, I believe, or using skills. So hopefully you can pretty much maintain 9% total critical rate in visible buffs, in 3 separate visible buffs on Gala Luca. In addition, his second skill gives him 100% curse immunity, and anytime he would get hit by an attack that would have cursed him, his critical rate is increased by 15% for 10 seconds. After activating, that does not activate again for 15 seconds. So if you're getting hit by a move that causes causes curse, you get this critical rate buff. That is another icon for 10 seconds. So that's already 4 icons right here. And 1 icon from Brilliant Booster on the critical damage. That's already 5 icons by himself. And if you think about using him on, say, a team with Chitose as an example, or even Gala Luca, who gives a strength buff through his strength buffing field, or maybe there's a Cupid, although Cupid's critical rate buff would count in the same bucket as the same icon as this one, but still, it's very feasible to imagine Gala Luca getting at least 4 to 5 buffs, if not the full amount of 7 different buff icons. Finally, Gala Luca has Flurry Devastation of 13%, so if you're able to maintain combo count, that's going to be a passive extra amount of critical rate on him as well. When you really look at this, if you're getting 13% critical rate off Flurry Devastation, 9% by having all of these different buff icons active, even if you only have 3 of those icons, that's an extra 12% right there. So that's a total of this being 21%, that 13%, so 34%. And since you have 3 icons, when you use Shining Slash, you would get 3, this 10% boost applied 3 times. I mean, you're looking at 50 to 70, maybe even 80% critical rate on Shining Slash. It does seem like it's 1 hit of damage. If it's multiple hits of damage, that could also be insane. But even if it's 1 hit of damage, it's a pretty high chance that you're going to roll a critical hit. And every time you roll critical hits, these buff icons should reapply. The cool thing about these is that they apply for any type of critical hit, so even your basic combos, if you just randomly land a crit, it's going to apply. Gala Luca is actually the type of character where, frankly, I don't know that he needs extra critical rate in his kit. It might actually be best to run something like the Worm Clan Duo on him, the Worm Prince from New Year's that gives skill damage of 30% and HP 70% equals critical damage. You might want to run that with, say, Spirit of the Season if there's a paralysis enabler on your team. I just think he already has so much critical rate in his kit that more critical rate might not benefit him if he's already able to cap up at 100% critical rate. And quite frankly, if you have somebody like Cupid, Cupid's buff active, it's not that crazy to me just looking at him. One thing I do want to remind you though, looking at Gala Luca, you might be tempted to go with things like buff time here. Remember that buff time applies to buffs applied by skills, not abilities. So buff time is not going to affect any of the abilities on Gala Luca. It would only affect Brilliant Booster, and it seems like Brilliant Booster you really just want to use before you throw out Shining Slash. So Gala Luca looks like an awesome character, very cohesive design. I think he's a pretty exciting pickup if you are a Luca fan, and in general if you've been wanting a light unit to invest in. The only perhaps weak point of Gala Luca will be when we look ahead to future Agito Uprising content. He does only have Curse Res, not Poison Res, so there is a case to be made that, maybe that ends up being relevant or useful when that trial finally comes out, but you never know. It's too early to really tell on that. Right now, the precedent that they've set with Volk's Wrath is that you want a mix of resistances anyway, so it's very likely Gala Luca would still have a place in such content. So, pretty happy with how Gala Luca worked out. I'm glad that he was finally featured. I think that this was the right time to do it. What I am less excited about, unfortunately, are the mana spirals. So sadly, a lot of the characters I predicted and hoped would happen did not happen. Kind of disappointing. These are all characters I like, some characters I love on here, but none of them that to me really needed this mana spiral. Like some of our characters who are just in the dust, like Nefaria. I really wish that she was on here. I know I'm not alone in that, but this is what it is. We're getting Curran, we're getting Heinwald, we're getting Lathna, so the entire Stirring Shadows / Accursed Archive crew, I guess less Akasha, she's not on here. And then we're getting Patia and Delfy, who round out the Fractured Futures crew, since Cassandra already got her Mana Spiral in the past. So they do give some reasoning for which characters they picked, which I appreciate, and hint or tell us essentially that in February, more is on the way. 3 and 4 star Shadow characters are coming. The fact that Patia was included this time around and she's a 4 star makes me think maybe they'll sneak in a 5 star in February. At least I can hope so. It might just be that Nefaria is beyond salvation. She needs a kit rework. I agree that she needs a kit rework, or they need to fix blindness as an affliction. But in any case, the logic of what they did is laid out here pretty plainly. And to summarize, they want to fix High Jupiter's Trial. High Jupiter's Trial on Expert and Master is in a place that is pretty disgusting from a homogeneity standpoint. It's just a Gala Clio playground. There's not a diversity of team comps that are used there. Yes, other types of team comps have worked. Yes, there's a role for Audric to play in Master to help out the Gala Clio, but frankly, those other types of team comps are still so rare that it really is, or feels like, especially at Master, it's Gala Clio or bust. Now, that's not universally the case, but usually a lot of the clears where that's not the case are done in pre-made groups, not necessarily in public lobbies, and if you don't have Gala Clio, that's a very demoralizing fight to try to enter, and even with her, it just feels like, okay, I'm playing Gala Clio Simulator right now, I'm not playing Dragalia Lost, as sad as that is to say, because I know she's some people's favorite character, and she's a cool character, but she just was ahead of her time. She power creeped everyone in a disgusting way. So we're still feeling the ramifications of that. All of these changes, in my view, are basically, and what they tell us is to open up a new type of team comp centered around poison. Your main poison enablers in the Shadow element are going to be Delfy, who gets a Mana Spiral soon, but not immediately, a little bit after the other characters here, and Cassandra, who already got a Mana Spiral in December. Just to kind of breeze through the changes, frankly, the reason I'm disappointed in this is not so much that I dislike these characters, but I feel like this is such a mechanical implementation of the Mana Spiral, and there's so little emphasis on flavor. One of the things I really appreciated about the Mana Spiral the first time around was that Ezalith got an ability called Flash of Genius. It felt like she had her personal skill. It felt very specialized, very unique. Even Naveed, his third skill, his skill prep, became something unique. And unfortunately, in all these cases, it's kind of like, this is exactly the bare minimum I would expect of a Mana Spiral, but there's not that extra layer of care and customization where I say, yes, that is when I think Curran, that is exactly what I think. That's exactly how I would want Curran to be. In fact, I feel like, at least Curran's Mana Spiral, for instance, this is not who this character really is at all. So we're seeing what they changed with Curran right here. They basically just added on his first and second skill this poison killer effect. So poison foes take extra damage. We've seen this now on Lathna. We've seen this on Ieyasu. They are pushing this hard as the alternative strategy to Gala Clio for Shadow content. And unfortunately, nothing about Curran being a detective, an investigator, an inquisitor. To me, there's no reason that Curran has any connection to dealing extra damage to poison foes. So that is where I say this feels very mechanical, does not feel flavorfully fitting to me. In terms of actual gameplay, yes, that's kind of what Curran needs to fit into the comps, but they could have also raised the modifiers on his skills or done something more unique with his abilities that felt more fun, I think. You never know, Circular Judgment and Merciless Blow might have better modifiers anyway, they probably will, going up a level. But another thing that people have said is maybe the defense debuff on Circular Judgment has a higher percent chance to activate, because it used to be only 50% chance. In any case, I just feel like nothing about this feels custom to Curran, and with this being a 5-star Mana Spiral, that is my expectation set up from December. So that's why I'm a little disappointed with this, but honestly, with how high the HP check is in High Jupiter's Trial, it wouldn't surprise me if having a Curran for the defense co-ability and just as a damage bot on poisoned enemies ends up being beneficial, because you do need a lot of survivability if you're not running the Odric cheese strat. Otherwise, Curran gets the usual potent res, extra percent on his Overdrive Punisher. It's 15% instead of 13%. And I think Last Offense has gone up a little bit, although 60% looks familiar, so I'm not even sure if they changed that. What I would have loved to have seen is like a uniquely named ability here. Like maybe instead of Last Offense, I don't know, just something a little bit more creative. Maybe there's some kind of, I don't know. Curran has the jokes, he has the slip-ups, but at the same time, he defended Lathna so heroically. So I feel like there could have just been a way to incorporate his personality a little bit more. And maybe I'm wrong because I can't think of anything, but I am just kind of disappointed in that it feels like, why is Curran doing extra damage to poison foes? It's just to fix Glio. That's kind of how I feel about this. Maybe that's cynical. Heinwald, similarly, looking at his kit, you would not be able to really tell what's different. Abyssal Connection, the percentages are higher. Call of Chaos, the description's the same, but presumably the flat recovery potency and the damage this deals is going to be higher. Extra skill damage on his first ability, potent res, and he gets skill charge as part of his skill prep. I don't think the skill charge actually helps him. You need like 7% skill haste, 7% or 8% for practical purposes skill haste to line up his first two skills, because you always want to cast Abyssal Connection before Call of Chaos. Call of Chaos charges slightly faster. The problem with the skill charge is, let's say you use Call of Chaos first. Well, yes, you're going to charge up Abyssal Connection, but you really wanted to use Abyssal Connection first. If you use Abyssal Connection, your Call of Chaos is most likely already charged, so your skill charge is not really going to do anything for you. So I think that might only affect his third skill from a practical standpoint, because you always want to cast the skills together. So Heinwald, much like Curran, I feel like it's just all about better modifiers. Nothing here that feels super custom, but Heinwald was already a pretty cool character to play, so I don't really fault that. Lathna, similar to the other characters, Lathna's new thing is Sundering Shadow now has the Poison Killer effect. Chaos Gift used to have it, and her first ability increases damage to poison enemies by 15% when not shapeshifted, and increases damage to poison enemies by 215% when shapeshifted. That is a huge amount of extra damage. Maybe it's even a typo, but either way, it's basically just Poison Killer damage. Actually, I suppose this is Poison Punisher. I've been referring to these as Killer when they're on the skill. The reason it's separate, apparently, so it's actually multiplicative with Punisher damage, including Punisher damage on Wormprint. So I think this falls into the later category. It would be added with that type of effect on a Wormprint. But 215% is absurd. I guess this kind of fits with Lathna, meaning that a lot of her damage comes from her dragon form, Nyarlathotep. The white Nyarlathotep that she becomes can cause poison for, I think, 30 seconds with its skill, so that's actually pretty good. It's a way of enabling poison in Shadow, which only has Delfy and Cassandra otherwise. So I will say that Lathna has a little bit more cohesion in her kit, but it doesn't feel like a massive power upgrade or a flavor upgrade to her character. Otherwise, her HP co-ability, just like with Curran, I think she could be relevant for survival in non-Odric comps of Master High Jupiter's Trial. Delfy, likewise, Delfy really didn't need a Mana Spiral. He was already quite good without a Mana Spiral. From what I can tell, looking at this, I think the only thing that may have changed here is the percentage on the debuff and the strength debuff, but I could be wrong about that. It might have already been the case. Definitely in terms of Delphy's abilities, the Flurry Poison Edge has gone up. The strength debuff on Poison Cage 3 has been changed. So it used to be a 60% strength debuff, and now it's a 55% strength debuff. So a little bit better. Kind of a marginal change though. Like, I want the Mana Spiral to feel more exciting than this. This is, yes, this affects the meta, but this feels almost too technocratic. Like, this feels very by the numbers. So that's why I feel like it's so tuned. Like, I would rather see 50% there, or like no no strength debuff just so we can kind of get crazy about it and get hyped about it. Whereas the 55%, it's like, okay, they realized Delfy really didn't need a power upgrade, but they're giving him one anyway to subtly nudge us toward this team comp, hoping that they can break through the wall of Gala Cleos. But that's enough complaining, I guess. Flurry Poison Edge, I don't know that this effect is really ever been good. I mean, you can keep poison uptime a little better as you've slowly built up the resistance of the enemy. It's convenient, I suppose, but frankly, I think that this could have gone with Flurry Strength and Poison Edge, just like they made Slayer's Strength into Flurry Slayer Strength. I just think that it's conservative because Delfy didn't really need this effect right now, or this upgrade right now. And finally, to get on a happier note, Patia, I like her changes, and I feel like they were well deserved. Patia is also a favorite character of mine, still waiting on Leaf, but basically they made Patia into not just a defense buffer, but a strength buffer. 15% team strength buff on her first skill, very solid, 25% defense as well. So I think if you're not running Curran and Lathna, you're going to be running Patia for both the HP co-ability and that defensive buff in Master High Jupiter's Trial when you're not using Audric to just meme on the trial. I think that she'll probably be a good enabler. Her Swift Skewer, I expect to cause bleed with 100% chance instead of 80% chance. And otherwise, kind of the standard changes and upgrades to her abilities. The Prime Devastation, the buff time, they do make her nice for solo content like the Mercurial Gauntlet. In high level Gauntlet, her strength buff with that defense buff is going to be really nice. Probably enable some regen shenanigans on your team, strength double buff shenanigans on your team, while also giving this Prime Devastation bonus to your leader. So I like Patia probably the most here. It's also partially that my expectations are not as high for 4 stars about how they should be improved. I don't have the expectation of something super custom for them, so that's probably part of it as well. But let me know what you think about the Mana Spiral in the comments below. I am very curious to hear what everyone has to say. Again, these are some of my favorite characters. I have Curran at 50 nodes. I have Heinwald at 50 nodes. This was my main in High Jupiter's Trial until Gala Cleo changed everything and Heinwald just wasn't run anymore. I do have Lathna. I like using her, but not that much. I have Delfy at 50 nodes, and I have Patia at 50 nodes. All these characters are ones I like. I feel like some other characters needed it more. But maybe the reality is these are the only units who were close enough to breaking through the Gala Cleo meta that is why these units were chosen. So let's not dwell on that any further. I await what you have to say. Finally, let us get into the version update. So version update coming out very soon. The theme of this version update, just like the theme of the Mana Spiral, is about accessibility for the High Dragons. So let's start with the new Revive feature. The new Revive feature is going to be added when someone's HP falls to 0. They will automatically revive in certain quests. There is a limit to how many times you can revive during a quest, and the number is tracked separately for each player. The number of times you can revive in a quest varies from quest to quest. So as an example, they show High Midgard Stormer's Trial Expert. You can revive 2 times. So pretty significant. And it looks like there is a timer in order to be able to revive. I guess you can gauge for yourself. It looks like maybe 60% of the timer remains, and there's 3 as the countdown remaining. So I would guess that maybe it's 5 seconds total for the whole timer, and the little hearts represent the number of revives that you have left. Perhaps this will mean that if everyone dies at the same time, it is considered a wipe of the run and you have to restart. But we do get some more details, so let's keep reading. You will receive a survival bonus when you clear the quest, and the contents of the survival bonus will change based on how many times you were revived. The fewer times you were revived, the better survival bonus you will be able to obtain. The survival bonus content differs based on the quest. This is where I started to get apprehensive. So I like the idea of revival. That is going to hugely open up hard content for players, because one of the most frustrating things is getting one shot by certain moves that are very hard to learn without repeatedly dying to them. And by the time that you've learned them, your room could have easily disbanded because people want to play with others who already know how those trials work. So I like the idea of revives. Putting a reward to it is interesting to me. When I first saw this, I was immediately afraid because I didn't see this as being an extra bonus. They describe it as a survival bonus. I thought that this affected your dropped rewards. So my initial interpretation of this was, if you die and everybody else carries you, you're not getting any tails. You're just getting orbs. But what I think this actually means is, on top of all the rewards you get for clearing the quest, if you don't have to revive, you get extra tails, you get extra orbs. If you have to revive once, you just get some extra orbs. If you have to revive twice, you don't get anything extra. You just get the base clear rewards. If this is just pure upside on what we already get, I feel more comfortable about this. Still don't feel that great because I'm worried about bad manners with this. I do think that there could be people griefing others. And personally, if I died in a quest and wasn't getting the bonus, I would probably want to give up and try again so I can get the bonus. But the problem for the rest of the players is with the revive mechanic, if I give up, is my corpse going to revive as an AI and then potentially sabotage and ruin the run for everybody? That I just don't know. And if you, as a group, are a pre-made and you decided that you want to rerun the quest until everybody gets deathless for that bonus, well, is it going to be easy to restart the match when normally the easiest way to restart is by everybody dying? If you keep having to revive and then die again, this might just be more of a time sink. So I'm somewhat apprehensive. I kind of think that it would have been a little cooler if the revive mechanic were actually something where you walk up to the player that you're trying to revive and you have to stay there, or maybe a healer can do it. But if there was a gameplay aspect to it, unfortunately, I also think that could be easily abused. So I don't think that was as realistic as just you automatically revive. I don't know though. I still worry that somebody dies, they're going to try sabotage everybody. And that could be a worst case scenario. But imagine that somebody dies and then because they died, they're not going to get the best reward. So they want to restart the run. So they run into everybody with their flame chaser and wipe the run. I don't see that as being completely out of the realm of possibility. As unfortunate as it is, when the incentives are put in place in this way, that you always want to revive 0 times to get the maximum benefit, I kind of see that as a possibility. What I would have preferred with this system is something where the drop rates are just increased flat out across the board, and the revive mechanic, maybe the revive mechanic gives you extra orbs or something like that, but the tails, it still feels like tails are so slow to accrue. If we were talking about drop rates similar to Agito here, and tails accrued and accumulated quickly, I would feel more comfortable locking them behind this revive bonus. But as things are, they're so slow to accrue. I don't know, and I also don't know, what is this going to look like for solo clears? Because when I'm doing Expert High Midgard Stormer's Trial solo, do I have to make sure all of my AI make it out alive to get the best possible rewards? Or can I intentionally sacrifice some of my AI or accidentally sacrifice some AI but still get the clear and get the rewards I need? This is a big question mark to me, but if this is available in Master, and I don't think they really say, they just say in certain quests, if this is available in Master, it's a huge game changer. Either way, it's going to be a huge game changer for the High Dragons, but it's not the only change happening. So in concert with some of the others, this is going to be a very, very different world that we're living in. So let's keep reading on. Also, okay, here's another thought. If I die, do I get resilient offense triggers? Are people going to be dying to trigger their Dear Diary worm prints? Because if so, you're going to get a lot of strength that way. We'll see. I'm hopeful about this. I think this will make this way more accessible for people. Inviting other players to join alliances, this is kind of non-existent to me. Alliances still don't really do anything as far as I'm concerned. You get bonuses for being in them. New mentor bonus feature. If a player who has already cleared an advanced dragon trial on standard or expert difficulty clears the quest with a player who has not cleared it before, they will be able to receive a special mentor bonus reward. Note, the mentor bonus does not apply to prelude and master difficulties. There is a limit to the number of times you can get the mentor bonus, and the limit will reset each week. The mentor bonus feature will unlock on January 29th. Okay, so this is a nice change. It's one of those things that on paper, yes, we want to be welcoming, we want to help new players, but putting Wormite behind this, doing it every week, how many new players are there that you can find easily every week in order to clear standard difficulty trials 5 times and advanced trials or expert trials 3 times? That's really hard to do and hard to find. I don't think this is sustainable week after week. That is my fear with this, is like, I might get the mentor bonus once and then never get it again. And yes, there's constantly new players coming to the game. Hopefully new players come with Monster Hunter. But every week, I feel like the people who are really hardcore and want to farm this are just going to have to make alts and carry their alts to first clears. But you're going to have to make new alts because once they clear once, they don't count for the bonus. So I really question who are the players who are going to be able to get this bonus for others. Are they visible? Are those players on places like Discord? Are they part of communities like Reddit? Are we going to be able to identify or know in a public lobby if the person we're running with is clearing for the first time? Because if so, those are going to be super coveted rooms where everybody else tries to get the mentor bonus. So I don't know how this is going to work. It feels very much like a Wild West free-for-all situation right now. It seems like one of those things that you're just going to have to accept. This is ultimately about trying to help other players, and the mentor bonus is just that, a bonus, not expected that you collect it every week. Okay, so next thing is new stickers. New stickers should help a lot with high dragon trials as well. It's not always easy to be able to use a sticker in the midst of battle. They're adding yet another sticker page as well, which may make it even harder with 4 pages to swipe for the particular sticker that you want. But it looks like they're adding directions. They're adding see ya and good night, which is always a polite thing to say when you leave a group. Time for a break functions in that way as well. Shapeshift now, super practical, very good sticker. Let's fight together, want to join up. Cute stickers, I don't see a lot of function to those, but the arrows, time for break, shapeshift now, all of those things should help with co-op communication. Look at this beautiful arrow pointing at a bubble. I wish we would have had that all along. It would have saved so much time, saved so many people their usernames, instead of having to inject these arrows into their usernames. So I very much appreciate the sticker change. These are not cosmetic, they're not cutesy, they're just arrows, but it's super functional. And unlike with the Mana Spiral, even though this is not like a flavor win, it's needed. I think I'm glad it's here. And then Not will give advice in Advanced Dragon Trials. So if you know Not, she's a trickster. She has tweeted some information which is not accurate before, so I do hope and expect that some of Not's tips are like slightly wrong. Like in High Midgard Swimmer's Trial, here's an example. Traditionally, in standard difficulty, back when you would play to the end of the match, there is a moment where there are gales coming across the screen, and at the same time, there's one of these red markers known as a tattered sky. Now, what usually should happen in that moment is that Verica, or your healer, will take that marker herself, become a dragon, probably a phoenix back in the day, and use her skill to iframe the marker and iframe any of those gales that are coming toward her. She will solo tank this. I expect Not to tell everybody, gather up, make sure you're on that red marker, and then at least a few times, everybody to just die to tornadoes because they are not prepared to gather on a marker and dodge the gales. So I hope that Not is a little bit sassy and a little bit wrong with her suggestions, just to keep things fun, but I don't mind that she's going to give tips. That's pretty cute. It's only on Prelude and Standard, so if you want to experience it, you're going to have to go back into those difficulties and check it out. I think that's kind of fun. Here's a bigger change, though, than Knott's banter. Extended time limit for advanced dragon trials. In a data update to be applied January 26th, the time limit for all difficulty levels, so that includes Master, will be changed from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. This change will not affect the parameters of any advanced dragon trial quests or the content of the drop rewards. So that's a huge change to just sneak in there with no graphic. There's a question in my mind of, what do the high dragons do after the 5-minute mark? Because typically, if you do time out, your DPS was a bit low, but you see the high dragons charging dangerous skills. Like toward the end of Master High Midgard Stormer's trial, he might do an additional Gale Blast that you have to be prepared to dodge. Toward the end of High Zodiarch's trial, not even the 5-minute mark, but well before that, he summons some of the flame lanterns in sequence and does a pattern where he spits out some poison. I think he may have a breath or a marker. He just does a lot at once if you let the fight go on long enough. So you have to wonder, what are the patterns of the bosses going to be like in the second half of the fight? I can't imagine they're going to bust out some new moves randomly, but I do wonder, is there going to be some move that you immediately need to dragon? Is there going to be some easier moves for a while where you have a couple minutes of relative safety and quiet that you can deal damage? That'll be an interesting question, but for the most part, all these trials are just getting faster and faster as far as clear time, so I don't expect many battles to go that long. It will happen sometimes, and I think it's good to allow it to play out. You never know, you may be able to clutch out a victory even with a slightly underpowered or weaker team. So it's cool that it's an option. I think that it's consistent with these other changes. Like if you're able to revive, great, you get more practice. Keep trying, play until the end. You never know. But I think for the enfranchised player base, not really that much of a difference. Next up, we get a change to normal quests. They're going to cost 0 stamina for the first clear in the story or main campaign. New treasure trade tabs. Tabs based on reward type are going to be added to certain treasure trades, making it easier to find rewards. And other changes, prologue UI, shapeshift damage during prologue, possible to skip 3D movie lines. Here's a pretty important one. When you first start an account, you will be able to pick your 5-star adventurer in addition to getting a 10-fold summon where you're guaranteed at least a 4-star. So previously you rolled randomly, you got one of these 5 stars from the start of the game. Now you can just pick whichever one you want. I think as of now, Ezzelith is probably the best among these, but mainly because she already has her spiral and nobody else on that list does. So pretty cool that new players can pick whoever they want if you're starting for Monster Hunter. I lean toward Ezzelith or Mikoto. Mikoto's just a personal favorite of mine. Xander has a lot of utility still as well. And the other characters, Hildegard may be the next most utility, but with the Mana Spiral, anything could change, or they could all just get Poison Killer on their skills. You never know. A few more changes about quick play, auto feature, UI on some screens, and some issue fixes, but that is pretty much it for the version update, and that is going to do it for this video, everyone. So thank you so much for sticking with me in this longer video. I hope you enjoyed the conversation today about Gala Luca, Mana Spiral, and the version update. It was really fun catching up on Dragalia Lost, reading through all of this, and since it's probably already happening at the time you're watching, I hope you're enjoying your Gala summoning, the interlude for the story, and getting ready for Monster Hunter. It's very soon. I'm very much looking forward to it. All right, everyone. Thank you once again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.